Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of the Digital Shop Talk Radio. It's episode 71 and it's part 6 in our 10-part series of transitioning to a full digital shop. We've got a great show lined up for you today. As always, I've got my expert panel of experts, Bill Connor and Uwe Kleinschmidt, joining us. And we're honored to have, I think first time we've ever had you on the show, Greg, is Greg Buckley from Buckley's Auto Care in beautiful Wilmington, Delaware.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, well, I'm really glad to be here. Yeah, it's first time for me after all these years, maybe even a decade. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Great to be here. I know you guys have got some really awesome stuff going on. My coach here, Mr. Connor,
Yes, sir.
really knows how to beat my hide, and he's been doing it quite well. So I'm excited in a sense. I'm going to learn a lot as much as I try and talk about the benefits of what we have here for DVI and why digital is so important. So
yeah, we've got kind of a unique opportunity with you because you've got long, chops in the industry, and you're not shy, right? I mean, I remember, matter of fact, I think the first time really you came on my radar, other than we've been chasing after you for quite some time, but was you had this whole thing going on with AAA, right? And you kind of got you almost became a household name at some point. And so, you've got a really great, deep perspective from mentoring other shops and kind of leading the way in this industry. And then also we've got an opportunity where you're kind of green coming in from a digital perspective, not unfamiliar with the technology, but, I would say maybe played it a little bit more conservative and let kind of see how things kind of weed themselves out over time. And then, now we've got you committed. And so we're going to be able to learn some insights from your wisdom and knowledge, but then also, like you said, hopefully provide some help and guidance, not just to you, but to other folks that are looking to adopt or get over some of those initial hurdles. Matter of fact, we've got a great show coming up with a shop that's just getting out of kind of that initial work with Bill and Chris Maggard, and now we get to see, it'll be neat follow-up to this show. And then of course we're gonna twist your arm to have you back on soon, Greg, so that we can then talk about these results that we're having.
Sure.
But before we kind of jump into all that, I want to just get a little bit of time, give us some insight on how has the shutdown been affecting you? How have you kind of had to maybe learn some new tricks to weather it and to stay competitive, and how's things going for you?
Well, actually, we're pretty flat. I mean, we had like May we had a little bit of a decline. Our area in Delaware and the Northeast sector seems to be a little bit slower. Well, at least for us, we're a little bit slower on the rebound. We have spurts, and I'm really trying to gauge when and how those, the heavy weeks are coming in and light weeks are staying away, that kind of thing. But overall, we've weathered it as best we could. It has taken a tremendous amount of marketing, customer communications, staying up with them, creating platforms or areas where you can be pretty fluid with communicating, the drip campaigns with email, those kind of things, active social presence, letting them know the updates, diving into community events that, resonate well with the times that are going on, and also what you're doing to help a community along. So all of that was really condensed in a period of maybe 2 months, where that may be a year's worth of campaigning, where you structured it out, and you look at your marketing campaigns, and it's a year long, and here you are, you got to you're pivoting like almost every day. And fortunately, it goes back to the tools that we have, with the digital inspection, the digital technology, the way we've always been adaptable. And my hat's off to the crew, because, we practice what we preach, maybe not to, dive into what we're going to get into, but we've always been one to excel at communicating, being on top of the game. And I really think that is super key. And it's really helped us weather the storm. And we look forward to building on this. And now moving into Q3 and Q4 and into 21, they're going to be very critical components. We're really going to have to be dialed in. And our marketing campaigns are really going to have to be not only measured, but really critical to who we reach and where we reach to. So
yeah.
Long-winded, we're okay.
Yeah, no, that's great, buddy.
So,
no, and you know, and we've gotten that because you know, you've had to adapt and you've had to do some things that you might not have done in the past, and you know, you had to actually kind of take some risks and try some stuff out. And some things probably failed, and some things became successful. And you know, it's really and a lot of folks had to go back to the foundational best practices, right? We really had to brush up on our fundamentals, right? And now, you know, as we're starting to come out of this thing, those things that were successful, that kept you in the game during the shutdown, how do you continue? I mean, did you discover something maybe that you didn't do in the past, or it's something that you had done and maybe kind of just started doing less of, or just, you know, we kind of evolve out of things that were successful in our past, especially with a good long career. What did you pick up, and what are you going to continue to carry forward as we come out of this?
Well, I think one, I'm going to be hyper focused, hyper local. And I believe that, you know, the range where some shops can think that they can stretch and it's practical to go 10 miles out of a highly dense area, your 3 to 5 mile range may be the best that you can achieve, you know, or where you should really start to build out again. Also, really want to study, and I really talk about this a lot to other groups, but you want to look at miles driven per capita, and you really want to know where your client base is moving to, or even if they are moving. It's a metric that's available from insurance companies, or like myself, I get involved with transportation committees like Will Map Go and, you know, the state of Delaware, and I really kind of find out basically how the population is shifting and moving, and that way you know whether or not you can be more aggressive in marketing or where to. And then you got to get down granular, you know, to see what's going on. So I think that's some of the things that we're moving more towards. That's why we're trying to dial in with the DVI platform. And then other thing is, you know, I felt that I've been a little bit lax on retention and really getting, you know, the handshakes and the hugs and the fist bumps, that's pretty much not allowed right now. So we're kind of void of the physical type of touch, shake hands, kiss babies, all that stuff. And we got to go back to, you know, the thank you cards, the emails, and the retention pieces that are really more important. So I think if there's one area that I admit that I kind of took for granted, it's the retention side. The acquisitions pretty much has always been there, but the retention is pretty critical. So that's what I want to expand on.
Tom needs to turn his mic on.
Yeah, I can't hear.
No lip reading skills here, Tom. Sorry.
How about now?
There you
How
go.
about now?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I dropped my
Yes.
microphone, so you know that's. Anyway,
And
but what I was saying is, you know, really brilliant points there. That you know, you really got to keep it local, right? It all comes back to staying local, but then also you have to be able to target and provide a unique experience to those individuals. You know, folks that live on the north side of town and maybe they're driving different vehicles or have different, you know, commuting habits or those types of things than folks on the east side of town. And, you know, and as you expand out that market, you know, you really need to get very, I think, connected and aligned with that customer base. And it's a perfect segue into really, you know, what we want to talk about in this episode is then that's managing your customers' expectations, right? Winning them over, not only from an approval perspective, selling more today, but keeping those folks loyal to your business and coming back over time. That's really winning them over. And, you know, we have a unique opportunity because with the digital shop and the digital shop operating process, you really get to say transparently, here's what we do at my shop. Here's what you can expect. You're going to get this type of an inspection. It's going to have this information. Here's how you engage with this inspection when you receive it by text or email. Here's the kind of the process for your decision making. Here's what we're going to do at pickup. Here's how we're going to do your quality assurance and those stuff. Here's what we're going to do after the visit and on into the future to make sure we take care of you as a customer, right? We can really define that. How have you adapted, Greg, since you've gone digital to managing those customer expectations from the whole cycle, the life cycle of the customer, not just today's appointment?
Well, I think what's unique is that the digital process has allowed us to use it for selling and explaining, but also education. And when it's archived, we can always go back historically and confirm, if there's a warranty issue. If hey, you know what's even great about it? It's if there's a dispute, it's a huge CYA tool in case there is a dispute somewhere along the line. One of the things I find unique, and I'm not comfortable with this, but it's the way it is that um, the counter will have everything explained to the client before pickup, and the exit, where the exit used to be an explanation and a personal thank you and all that stuff, it's now detached. And for me, that's difficult, but in today's times, it's understood. And but that is what is the expectation of the client now. The COVID situation where we don't have a physical contact, contactless is pretty much where we're at. And it's, to me personally, this is a disconnect because I'm not that way. I'm not built that way. But yet we have to understand it. And that's the same premise that I originally made me dive into Auto Vitals round one, because I thought that we didn't need to have as much digital processes as what we did. And the thing that got me was somebody mentioned to me, he goes, well, what happens when you're not there? You're doing all of this, Greg, and you've got your forms, you've got, I've got a history of building stuff for me and working that way. But what happens when I'm not here? Well, the digital process gives me that platform to say, okay, guys, now I don't have to be here, and yet I still know everything's going to be covered. Yep. So, it's, I don't know.
The details are right there.
Yeah, numbers, right? Yeah. The whole thing. I'm just a big believer in using digital technology as an amazing tool. It's quite the utility, and I think it's now more than ever very much appreciated by clients of all ages.
Yes, that's
from your 99-year-old grandma. Right? Yeah. It's, look, here's the thing, and the one thing the shop should understand is that now with what we just experienced, I personally went out and purchased, a new iPhone and a new iPad for my 80-year-old parents to use it for telemedicine. So now they have a platform that let's say that they drive, or they do drive, but I can communicate now with them, and they're getting more adaptive to that digital technology, where they used to fumble around an iPad. Now it's like, okay, I get it. I'm talking to my doctor. I can talk to my technician. So all age groups now and demographics are fully digitized. I mean, and it's not going to stop. This is actually kind of like a breakthrough situation for us.
Yes.
So I think we need to take advantage of it. I'll shut up now.
100%, right? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'd like to introduce, because Uwe's been, I don't know if he's ever not working, but he put together really a gift. I really, think that this is a great kind of an overview and timeline for folks what to expect, whether you've been with us forever or you're brand new. And I'd like to kind of jump into it, get your feedback on it, Greg, if we could. Bill, if you could, kind of kick us off on that, because I'd really like to hear, because you guys have been working together now for some time, and I'm sure you've gone through the analysis and you've gone through the planning stages, and you're really starting to get into the implementation stage. And we'd like to kind of hear, if we could, what led up to where we're at today, and what are the goals, and what are we doing to get there?
Sure. So, Dustin, if you go ahead and bring up the screen on there, what I'd like to do is just kind of start about, talking about the overall process we use with all shops to go ahead and actually bring them on board and make sure nothing gets missed. And so, in around week one, when we first make a contact with a shop, we talk to them about, doing shop meetings and so on, getting everything set up. And that first week is actually spent getting everybody kind of wrapped up and rolling forward. So, Greg, if you would go ahead and maybe just give us a minute or two on, what that first week was like in your process as far as the meeting in your shop. Did you, just say we're going to do this and like it, or did you explain to them what's in it for them and invite them to come along on your journey with you?
Well, it's kind of different, but at the same time, here's our experience. We've always been we've always adapted well to new technology. It's just our culture. And when we decided to go full bore back into Auto Vitals, we decided that let's take advantage of every bit of tool. So what we did was, first we took the time to get the sales counters back up to where we were before. And everybody, fortunately, was very familiar with the old theme, or the older version of Auto Vitals when we were first involved. And then getting back into the second one, we realized that, wow, there's so many tools here. And a lot of those tools fell on me to understand and utilize. And that's when I go, okay, Bill, fortunately, I remember Bill from back at Craig Zale's place, down in Texas. And Bill, I was so blown away when I walked in. There's Bill masterminding behind Craig's counter and getting everything done, and from web to digital to everything. And when I said, look, I like to have Bill because I know you know your stuff. I said, okay, well, let's start training. Let's start getting involved. So we set things up to a minimum level. And I admit that, through the weeks and all that stuff, I've been kind of lax on not the commitment, but the actual execution of it. So Bill and I can share stories on it. So anyway, a couple Saturdays ago, we sat down, we had a 2-hour training situation, and it was great. And it allowed me to get back in to understand, okay, the feel of the new Auto Vitals. For me, it's new again, but the feel of what I'm getting into again. And I was literally blown away by the metrics that were there for me to study. And I go, wow, okay, now I really got to get involved with it. And Bill and I are slowly starting that process again. And it feels good. The back end's amazing. I just never realized how in depth it is. So that's where I'm at in this journey number 2. And with Bill's help, we're coming along. We're coming along with it.
So one of the most important discoveries we made on that conversation, I think, and you tell me whether you agree or not, was going ahead and starting out with a really good inspection sheet that has good bones.
Yes.
So one that speaks to the customer and educates. And that's, we want to go ahead and roll that out. And so now that's when we get into the next week where we start talking about quick wins. Quick wins is actually making sure your inspection sheet is dialed in 100% properly, and make sure you have the labor codes or CAN job service packages in your management system actually mapped to your inspection sheet. And then work with your staff to go ahead and define exactly what that topic is supposed to look like as far as picture, note, arrows, and so on, so that we can produce some approvals early and often on there. So a good inspection sheet, dialing in and making sure that your shop understands, what pictures they should take and so on. And then more importantly, by the second week, you should be inspecting a minimum of 40% of the cars that come through your shop. That's a key component to go ahead and get off the ground and get it processed properly. And if you're doing inspections and sending pictures or taking pictures and editing them and so on, there's really no excuse not to send out 100% of them inspections to the customer. And believe me, over the last, bunch of years, I've heard every excuse that there is as why I don't send them, but I've never found a valid one yet. So if you're doing the work, send them out. Even if the customer is in your front office, we want to make sure that we get that done and sent to the customer. And so, Greg, that was one of the things we actually talked about as we're looking through your data and making measurements, is that in the past, you haven't been sending them through our platform and you've been missing a lot of the metrics. So, share, now that you've discovered the power of it, share your commitment to where you're going to go on the following weeks.
Well, that's a really good point, Bill. And yes, before we jump back in, well, actually, since we were digital way back when, we really were utilizing Google Voice for everything. We had the vanity number on there. I used to preach about, how great it was for texting and keeping up with things. And we utilized it significantly. But then when you showed me why we need to contain that within the Auto Vitals platform, it made much more sense, because we were able to derive a lot more key metrics and a better understanding of what the client is actually doing, how long they're watching the video, if they open the video, if they open the inspection, whose inspection did they open. So all these little things mean a lot when you're starting to decipher the client profile. And I believe that, you know, once we it's a big conversion for us, let me tell you, because we're so ingrained with Google and its properties and how we've managed all these years. We're still, it's going to take a bit, but nonetheless, the purpose is there, and it shows so much. And I think that alone, that metric alone, will be so key into understanding your client profile, how they interact, what they do, so forth and so on. So, you know, that's our goal.
Number, it really starts at managing that customer expectation, right? That's really sets the foundation, sets you up for success to get that number moving the way that you, because the data doesn't lie, right? We know that if you're driving a motorist research time of X, you can expect about this amount of approval rate. And if you get it up to here, it's significantly higher.
And I think some of the things that I look at, I mean, from other analytics and let's say my YouTube or different properties, the analytics I like to see is, well, what age group looks at video for how long? What's their attention span? You know, that's pretty key, simply because you know exactly how much time you have to secure a sale or to have their attention. Their commitment is what it looks like. So if you make let's say you make a 1-minute video to send out and they watch it for a full minute, they're committed to a repair. If they watch it for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or don't open it, then you know there might be a difference in response. All that stuff comes down, and I don't know, it blows me away. I'm impressed, very impressed.
Yeah, but it's smart, because then you can chop it up and you can give a personalized experience, right? Because it's how I respond. And so you communicate. It's efficiency of marketing, right? It's efficiency of communication to just tell me on the format that I want and the way that I want, because you know I'll respond that way. Whereas somebody else, maybe they need smoke signals, maybe you got to go knock on the door, who knows, but they respond differently, right?
And I think that there shouldn't be a fear in any of the shop owners who progress to the point where they can actually see they can look at a snapshot of what has transpired in terms of demographic, the time used, and all that other stuff, and they can really start barreling through like my whole customer base, my profile, this kind of thing. It's like looking at a P&L. If you get good at it, you'll know right away in a dashboard, or whatever you want to call it, quick view. Same with your numbers with this kind of stuff. So when Bill showed me the true back end, I go, okay, I'm only hurting myself by not diving in and getting it done. That's the thing. That's the key. As much as it is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Bill won't let you get away anyway.
No, he won't.
And real quick for folks, you know, if you didn't see it, so a couple of weeks back is when we did the quick wins episode. It's episode 69. So, you know, in there, if you're looking at, you know, gosh, what's a quick win? Make sure you catch that episode, watch the recording of it, and then talk with your trainer, because that's something that you really want to implement, because those quick wins drive that momentum and get that team buy-in that push you to that finish line. So make sure you get that and watch that.
So during that I was going to say, during that.
Yeah,
go ahead,
sure.
If that's okay, Bill.
Morning.
Oh, good morning. Dustin, could you share the week 1, please? I want to just give another option to help you manage expectations. You can create, for example, with our help, a web page on your website which talks about what the digital shop is going to accomplish, right? And you could even put that up on a screen and prepare your customers. This is what we're going to do from now on. You can turn that into a campaign you send out and link that page in that campaign and help your customers to embrace the new technology they can expect, right? So there's definitely, before you go and change your shop procedures, it might be a good idea to send out a campaign, introduce it at the counter, right? together with, here is what you're gonna get in the future from us on your phone, and this is how it's gonna look. And
Yeah, you
and that will
educate your customer, right?
you educate your customer on what you're gonna send them. That's gonna create excitement. It's gonna create expectations that you deliver back to the 100% send rate.
And you know, that's a
Um,
great point, because here's the thing, folks, is if you've been struggling at implementation and you got this part down, but gosh, I can't just get this, my picture edit rate's terrible. You know what happens is if you build a website like this and you tell your customers, and then you link that in your appointment confirmation and all your communication and follow-up, and then you nail it when they come in, new customer or returning customer, doesn't matter, nail it at the front counter at drop-off, guess what happens? You've committed to making sure you tell them, I'm going to send you this by email and text. Well, there goes your sent rates through the roof now. Hey, this is how you use the inspection. We're going to mark up, we're going to identify the problem areas and tell you right in the picture and video what to do about it. Well, there goes your edit rate, because, hey, we've committed to it. We've put it out there and we've made that promise publicly. Now we have to deliver. So if you're struggling to get your goals, to get your edit rate, your sent rate, your motorist research time, whatever it might be, say you're going to do it to your customer base, then you have to do it because you're going to have to deliver it, right?
And it also brings the team together, right? So you make a promise to your customer and the team's going to deliver both in the back shop as well as in the counter. So it's a good idea to create that on the website and then in the first shop meeting say, here's what we're promising our customers, let's deliver.
Yep. Each and every one. Very
true. I mean, we try and get at least 14 to 21 pictures for every service. And we have, goes back to the client, they see everything. And that is part of the expectations. When they get that, for folks who haven't had it, for clients who have not had that experience, it is a big win, and you just build on it from there. So,
yeah.
And if I may, Bill, we implemented a new feature which is not even live yet, but I thought I used the opportunity to introduce it to you guys. See this little "We'd love your feedback" button on the inspection on the right-hand side, and when you click it, it should be even live. So we had the following interesting phenomenon with service advisors who go from phone selling to digital. Some of them are hesitant to switch the process, but if you can encourage them about positive feedback from the customer, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy in the best way possible, right? So if you get direct feedback and immediately, that's going to create a higher momentum. That's why we implemented this feature.
That's right? Cool. I like the last one. I might not have time to research all the details, but I appreciate how you guys care about that. That's huge.
Right. And so
and to your point, Greg, that gives you that insight that you're talking about. Now you put a little customer note in there. Now next time you're going to put some more educationalist stuff that's easy for that person to do, quick 90-second video or something that adds that extra layer to help them do the research, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Really? I mean, you just stamp trust right over that last comment.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
And this message, this submit feedback, lands directly in the service advisor's task manager, which we're going to talk about later, right? So the service advisor cannot miss that immediate feedback from the motorist. Dustin, if you can click the X, then it should go back to the old one, I hope. Perfect. The other thing we have implemented, which has been live now for a few weeks, is we encourage your customers to share the inspection results with their friends, creating new clients, or at least create awareness of what's possible, right? So that should be another interesting aspect of it, that your customers talk about, are proud of the way you deliver the inspection results and how transparent it is and how it helped making decisions.
Another side of that, guys, is that we've had clients share the inspection. Now, if I sent, I have a practice of sending an iMessage to a personal video of what we're doing. And in most cases, in some cases, they don't mind sharing the train wreck that's their car at the moment, because they go, look how torn up my car is, and these guys are going to do a great job putting it back together and all this, you know. So it's kind of, it works both ways. Yeah, they're great with the transparency, but they also can have fun with it. Okay, look what my car did, you know, that kind of thing. So both ways it works.
Sure. Some people just want to be victims. Oh, what was me? Buy me a new car. Mom, look at my car. How terrible it is.
We'll see. There you go. There you go. Right.
Mom.
Back to you, Bill.
So we transitioned through the first couple of weeks. You know, we're completely paperless in the shop. We've you know, taken the paper away. They don't have the bottle to work with anymore, so that's good. And now by the time we get in the third week, we should be focusing on the quality inspection.
Yes.
We can measure how good that is in the eyes of the customer by doing an inspection result audit in the shop, but more importantly, by looking at the business control panel. If your motorist research time is good, then a lot of things have went right. You know, you've done an inspection, you've documented it properly, the customers are spending time looking over with, so that's your gauge as far as how well you're doing. So, you know, if we're going to diagnose a performance problem on a vehicle, we always want to look for a high level KPI. This would be your one to go ahead and watch for. And then if you go ahead and randomly pick a few inspections and look them over, Dustin, if you move over to the right-hand side and you scroll through the sample inspections here, that's kind of the quality that we're looking for. We want to be able to see, you know, if the customer goes through, are they getting, you know, areas that are good with some measurements, so we can show customer wear over time. And we tell the customer, we want to do this 3 or 4 times a year, so you can not only see what's wearing, we can predict the rate that it's wearing at in case you'd like to budget. So that's all about what's in it for the customer. And go through these in your meetings in your shop. So by now you should be having weekly meetings, and let the staff, you've explained to them what good looks like, and now let them help you pick apart some of their inspection sheets, your own inspection sheets, to actually go ahead and have them tell you what you could have done better. So this is a good thing to go ahead and be working on. And by that third week, this is the level that you should be at. And Greg, is there anything that I just said that you kind of pork on? You know, you're always be communicating is where you actually live. So, you know, do you buy into the fact that if we can go ahead and convince the customer that we want to see you, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, we want to show you what's wearing over time, is that the mindset that we want to develop in our shop?
Yeah, we want our frequency to increase. I mean, most of us, well, here I'll have at least almost a 2-point per year turn. You get it at 2.5, and you're just raising the overall, you know, value of the client, what you're doing for services and stuff like that. So, you know, yeah.
And can you see in a weekly meeting, going ahead and getting your staff together, picking, you know, 2 or 3 inspection reports and having them tell you what they could have done better to make it more engaging for the customer?
Right. Absolutely. You know, that's what your weekly meetings are all about, is you study the jobs that you were successful on and the jobs you maybe could have done a little bit better. And that's where you look at it and go, okay, well, how many pictures did I have? Did I get it out on time? Was there a delay in the parts? All those come forward when you have the information in front of you. And it's easier to explain to the team in a meeting instead of, you know, guessing and showing them papers of numbers and this and that and all that other stuff. So.
Yeah. So one of the things I really like to use in a meeting, though, is use the live business control panel, because if your motorist research time is low, and then you go ahead and look down a little bit farther on the list and your number of recommended actions is 2, and you're not editing any pictures, and the service writer sends it out to him and then picks up the phone and calls him 5 seconds later, then we know some processes are broke down and we can go ahead and fix them. So having that data right at your fingertips without having to go ahead and follow around behind your people and, you know, sit there with a stopwatch and all this other stuff, you know, it just makes it a lot easier for you.
Certainly.
You have anything else you want to add on week 3 there before we go into week 4 there, Uwe?
Hey, Bill, but real quick, I'd just like to reinforce a point that you made. And this is really important, folks, is that you in your shop have to define what bad means. and you have to communicate that to your team. You have to define what good means and what do you do about it, and what do you do about what bad means. Because that gives you the standardization, the consistency across inspections. You're not leaving it up to somebody to guess. They have an understanding and they know exactly what bad means.
So Dustin, if you would go ahead and flip back to the screen on there with that inspection report, and then go ahead and show us that inspection report, and I can show you an example of what we're talking about. So go ahead and go down into the area where it says immediate attention on the inspection report itself, and go ahead and expand that. And go ahead and scroll down, and so you see what good looks like here by design is the technician is recommended, has seen a condition, they've said what they want to do about it, there's a picture taken there that has information on it, and if you'll scroll down to that picture with the eye on it and tap on it, then we've got everything the customer needs to know right there. So if the customer was in your shop and you were showing them at the side of the car, I promise you, you're not going to let them phone a friend. You're controlling the whole conversation, everything they need right there. And now we're doing the same thing here with the inspection result, pictures, notes, and so on it. So again, there is no reason for them to go anywhere else. You're controlling the content that they get to be educated and the timing they get it, which is right after you've finished the estimate. You know, if something goes wrong, then, you know, you've done everything you could to go ahead and actually make it happen. And even if they don't buy it today, it's okay, because we're going to repurpose this information on the next reminder that goes out anyways to go ahead and jingle that customer's bell one more time. So again, you know, we've got a process that's tried, true, and proven. All we need to do is make sure the implementer at the shop shares the vision of what's good and asks everybody to come along with them, and then measures their progress. And then by the time we go ahead and get down into week 4, if you'll scroll down just a little bit farther there, Dustin, by now we should be going ahead and demonstrating the value of what's going on by our processes to our staff, and your inspection rates should be going up. Your inspection sent rate should still be, you know, everyone that's inspected, we should send it to the customer, no exceptions. Your picture edit rate should be high, and your motorist research time goes up. And now you can use the business control panel to go ahead and actually dial down and make sure not only is the whole shop on target, you can start going ahead and identifying maybe areas that a individual employee needs to work on. So that way, if you got superstar employees, don't hold them back while we go ahead and get the other stragglers to come along. So using the data to manage your business is probably one of the most important things. And by the time you get to week 4, you know, it's just a matter of rinse and repeat, analyze the numbers, and praise and correct as necessary.
Develop that muscle memory. Make it a habit.
And do some inspection audits in front of the team. You know, pick inspections which worked really well and discuss why they worked well. But also inspections where, so for example, the picture you see there, it says oil leak. What would have been nice is to add, how do we fix it? Right? Not just the condition, but also the recommendation, right? And those are things, the shop meeting then becomes the perfect place to do those inspection audits. Don't drag it out, just pick one before the meeting and talk about it. And that creates reinforcement of best practices as a team.
Yep, and so they'll learn when they go ahead and see our guided inspection sheet on TVPX what good looks like, because it's built into the sheet. But basically what we're looking for is everything the customer needs to know on the picture. So area of focus would be a circle or arrow. What is the picture of? What needs to be done? And the reason to buy today? If that's all on the picture, which is where it would be if you're talking to the customer at the car, then you've got a solid win.
Yeah. No, and it's so critical, because when we're talking about managing customer expectations, having that defined is so important, because you know, I come back next time, no guarantee Bill's going to be my tech again. And when Greg is working on my stuff, he better be communicating and telling me the same stuff Bill was telling me, or, you know, we're right back out the window.
It produces continuity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's critical. And the nice thing, like what Bill's saying, is it's all built right into the, you know, you'd have to, you know, you have to turn the thing off to prevent, you know, to not follow that consistency as it's built into guided.
You know how you're going to find out when somebody deviates from the tried and true plan? When the customer calls you up as a shop owner and said, "Hey, them guys didn't do this time, and they've been doing it all along." So your customers at a certain point in time, they're going to go ahead and steer the bus. They're going to say, I expect this now. I want to have it, and I didn't get it. Why not? So that's a good thing.
No, that's a great point. It's one of those funny things about them service experiences, right? You might not hear anything about it when you're doing it, but as soon as you stop doing it.
And so by this time, we're already into our 5th week, and now it's time to start talking about workflow configuration. So you might have a specialist position in your shop as far as a parts department or whatever, and then you can start going ahead and busting up your workflow and making sure it's dialed in precisely. But by now, you should be able to take your old process in your shop, your old SOPs, and by now you should be able to go ahead and define changing that into the digital world. So examples of that would be is that, all the cars get inspected and so on. We used to educate the customer at the side of the car. Now we're going ahead and doing it digitally. We want the same result. We also, in the past, we used to go ahead and the technician on the paper repair order, they put their initials on every labor line that they finished it. Now all they have to do is go ahead and press the 100% done button as they go along. And if they do that, there's a lot of extra added benefits for the service writer as far as being able to manage your labor inventory, which is a whole other episode in itself for sure. Using the workflow status notifications to go ahead and take that extra burden away from the service advisor as far as calls. By now, you should be used to going ahead and changing the workflow step and having it automatically send a notification to the customer, letting them know where it is in the process. So these are all things by week 5 that you should be dialed in on. And, you can see a picture of a workflow step notification down there a little bit to the right in the green. These are all messages that if you just have these set up and configured to go out automatically, that's one less thing that service writer has to think about, not missing. Anything else you'd like to add on there, Uwe, Tom, Greg? I think Greg's muted.
Yeah, I just got that right now. I think you covered most of the bases. I look at it like from where I still consider myself like almost in step 1. There's so much to put back into this, and at the same time trying to work a new version of my shop management system. Yeah. But combined, the information and the it's just pretty phenomenal. It's just a lot of work for me, but I'm getting there.
You just actually took yourself back to week 2 with what you said also, because you got a really powerful management system at your disposal. Yeah. And you have been making zero use of the labor codes and canned jobs in the past. And I think you covered after our conversation the other day that's moved up pretty high on your list.
It has. It really has. I've seen more of a value in having the canned jobs and making it easier for the techs and the system to do itself, to take advantage of the automation. That's what's key. I mean,
and the metric.
And the metric, right? You're trying to eliminate steps for your service advisor, so that they can have a better process, a better sales process. And the only way to do that is to really, like you said, digitize, or I guess format your shop management to the DVI, bring them together, use those canned work orders, and make it very convenient and easy. So that's one less thing off their plate. So that's a whole thing in itself. Hey, it's work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Greg, because that's exactly, once you have your best practices, you got your standard operating procedure, your digital SOP defined. Now you have to start to kind of connect it with your standing processes, right? With how you're doing intake, how you're doing marketing. If you're not doing it through, your CRM, or if you are using our CRM, you start to dial that in, and really, that's where you tie the knot, folks. That's really where you tie the knot. We've done the expectation management. Now we've had our first service with these folks, and we've delivered on those expectations. Now we bring it full circle, and we follow through, and we go for that exit schedule, right? We get them to committed and on the book before they even drive away. And if not, at least we've planted the seeds, and then we make sure we're following up with those reminders. And we run that same campaign consistently on each and every person that comes through the shop, so they have that consistent experience and they know what to expect. and then they're back. You know, they stay loyal. It's not if, it's when.
And so what Greg, what I tried to get across with him on our last call was basically he's got some best practices that are stored up in his noggin. And what we want to do is we want to take them out of there, build them into the inspection sheet. Yeah, it's in there. It's a little piece.
Yeah,
But we want to build
tiny
them in,
fraction.
we want to build them into the inspection sheet. We want to leverage the management system, and we want to automate everything we can based on getting what's in his head into the system. And then he can actually take a day off and go play with his granddaughter and not have to worry about his business.
Yes, that's the key.
Well, there's my inspiration.
Yes.
So
All the motivation you need.
all the motivation I
Right.
need right there, you know.
Telling
It's, no, but it's true, Bill. It's very true. And when we have our talks, you know, as owners, you know, and it's not like I have a, you know, 18, 25 bay facility. You know, it's 5 bays, solid crew, long time, tenured. But and you develop habits that, you know, you like just the other day I walk in and I'm telling my son the reasons why. Yesterday, I said, the reason why I want to have this processes down is because I don't want to be here. Or if I'm not here, I can, the knowledge and awareness that you'll have at your fingertips will be the experience that you have to have in order to run an effective shop. I mean, for me, and maybe like some other owners, you can walk into a shop of my size and within, I don't know, maybe a half an hour, or just by walking through the service space, you pretty much can dial in what's happening. I mean, you just know from experience the efficiency that you're having, the jobs are getting done, the ones that won't get done, the technician, the way they feel, all of that stuff, it's experience built. But when you're trying to transfer that information and that experience, you just don't have, well, now you do have the tools to do that. And that's where I'm trying to explain to the third generation that's coming up on why all of this hard work is and will be necessary. But just imagine what will be like when we get over that hump, right? We took on a lot in 2019 through 20. I mean, you know, from the equipment side that now like our Hunter aligner dials into Auto Vitals, which is great. We'll have that done. We've got Auto Vitals is with us, and we have new Trax Enterprise. So we took on a big burden to prepare for the future. And like, again, once we get through all that, we'll have an amazing suite of tools that will guide the business between now and, geez, you know, another decade or so to come.
Sure, at least.
At least, yeah. You know, and
It was just getting warmed up, buddy.
yeah, it's just getting warmed up. I mean, there's just a lot of cool things that are coming up, man. It's I know a lot of guys don't really dive deep into what's going on. I know Uwe does, and I have a tendency to, you know, go off the deep end. But there's so much awesome stuff coming down the pipe from you know, both inbound and internal from our software vendors and suppliers and stuff. It's very exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like what you said earlier, you know, it almost is a blessing in disguise that this shutdown happened. Not from, you know, folks getting sick,
Yeah.
but just having us really, you know, be introspective about our businesses and what we're doing and how we are managing customers' expectations and what the market is expecting and demanding and how that's evolving.
Yeah. And
to your point, I mean, it just opened up the barn doors to opportunity, right? There's so many things that need to be improved and can, you know, be adapted digitally that we've just taken for granted for so long. We've done them this analog way. That, you know, hey, it's a brave new world, you know, and like you said, folks of all ages, you know, you can't put them in buckets anymore. You know, you'd be surprised, you know.
Yeah, there was a lot of times when, well, there was a lot of prejudice out there that says that if you're 85 years old, that you're not a digital native. Well, that's a total lie.
Yeah.
And people cannot believe, you just cannot believe that anymore. And what this last 2 months have done is completely obliterated any old thoughts about no one's connected. Everybody's connected. And now is the time that if you dial in your processes and have the tools available to you, you are part of the conversation. And I think for most of us, at least my premise has always been, how do we get to the pocket of the client. And I don't mean that in a money grab situation. What I mean is you're connected to the client. What is a way we can do it? And with the phone, with the advent of the phone, the smartphone, we made our first inroads. We were able to communicate on demand. They're in the pocket. We're on demand, so forth and so on. But now we get into something a little bit bigger where my belief is that we have the ability to be part of a lifestyle, their lifestyle. And we can form different tactics and strategies where they depend upon us as a resource, not just as, a one-time thing or a one-time repair, but more of a resource, as a go-to source of information, repairs, community, whatever we need to do, and it's even getting better when we go right down here to the launch. So I'm kidding. I mean, the ecosystems that we get into will be critical, I think, to us having that relationship, that deep relationship with our client base. So that, if we look for 1.5 turns per year or 2.5 turns, but maybe we get 3 cars at 2 turns, we start developing this referral situation, because you know why? We're there. We're in your dash, we're on your wrist, we're in your pocket, we're everywhere. So that's what I kind of look at. That might be big stuff, and you shouldn't get me on these things because I just get going.
Oh, we love to have you
know
on.
what I mean?
Because you bring up a brilliant point. That's the hook, right? You set that hook because we're turning into we have so much information at our fingertips. We're turning into this kind of analysis society, right? Well, we're measuring our sleep patterns and our heart rates with our little gadgets, and, how the wind is blowing across my hair at this hour, whatever. We're measuring it all. Well, if people love that, they're eating it up. If you give them that, they're able to measure, their vehicle, the expectations for the, components or condition, or however what their driving habits will inevitably do, or what that might cost, right? We'll analyze all that stuff. And if you provide that, that's a huge value to me. And I'm going to become loyal to you, just like I would, Apple or whoever that provides that experience to me.
Well, you're right, Tom. And the thing is when I mean, a lot of people get confused. Well, what do you mean by lifestyle? It's like, okay,
you're right.
How do I sit in my car? Well, ergonomics is just as important as driving healthy, right? You got to know how you're going to sit, and they're going to be monitored. I mean, cars now will have oxygen levels, and they'll have all kinds of sensors that will evolve around that. The same with, seat position, spine, all that stuff. I don't know. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to shut up because people.
Oh, you're right. Right. It's for alertness. It's for your response rate, right? If you're sitting in a specific position.
But how much information can we now be of value to our client base, right?
Well,
if we know how they should be, where can we take that value? All right. Does the service advisor now understand? Well, Mrs. Smith, if you sit properly here, you have lower heart rate, you have better function, you have peripheral vision that's better. Is that as equal to having a well-running car? Ask yourself, if you're in the car, you're part of the car. We're part of the car. We are the technician around the car. So these are parameters that we're not there yet, right? But stretch it out, broaden your horizon a little bit, and see where we can go. If it's practical, if it's not, But these are areas that I constantly go through. And that's why I probably don't sleep.
Yeah, and they're like pro tips, and you catch those all the time, right? In your day, you interact with folks, and they give you a little bit of their wisdom, and you're like, it doesn't really apply to me today, but that's interesting, and that's just a nugget of information that can help benefit you. It's a pro tip, right?
Well, it all starts with just getting back to digital. Yeah, it all gets back to getting this dialed in. Seriously, the more that we have digital processes within our own businesses and how we can utilize them and extract the value out of it, we become more adaptable and open to other areas that we connect with, or we can connect with. It's not done yet. I think there's a whole nother situation coming our way. And it starts here. It starts with a solid vehicle inspection, knowing the vehicle, knowing the client, knowing what you're doing, and getting it dialed in. So
And so really what we've done in the first 5 weeks is if we've started out from paper and now we transitioned all the way through from having to go ahead and magically sell to the customer over the phone, actually selling them. Now we've moved to a position where we're getting authorization through education. And that's really want to be, and the market kind of dictates that. And also we put ourselves in a position where the customers are going to be expecting it. So that's where one of our new features comes in called the task manager. So that's going to make it virtually impossible for a service writer to go ahead and miss something. So Dustin, if you go ahead and switch back to the screen, you know, basically we want to make sure that, you know, when an inspection comes in from a technician, the service writer knows to look it over, browse through it, edit the pictures, create an estimate and send it. So all these things we're putting tasks in there to make it very hard for the service writer to go ahead and miss. And if the service writer does miss it, there's always a way for somebody else to help them with some accountability through using data and other means. And now by the time we get into the 6th week, what we've really done is we've moved into a process where we can manage our shop and motivate our people using just specifically data. So if Greg wants to go, you know, stay at home and play with his granddaughter, or somebody else wants to go move out to an island, or if somebody has multiple shops, to be able to see everything for everything that's going on in one place without having to be there, that can become a beautiful thing, especially if you're old like I am, and maybe Greg is, and some others, that we're working on an exit strategy. Having processes in place that are documented, tried, true, proven, and also bankable if we want to sell our business to somebody, that's what we really want to look for. And so shops that actually follow the process and stay on path, you know, don't duck their calls with their trainers like some people on the screen there might have been known to do, then we can get this done in a you know, a logical manner that can be duplicated over and over. And I wasn't poking fun at you, Greg. I meant it. So
I love you too, Bill.
Yeah, I would actually like to point out this awesome review, which is screenshotted onto week 6. As Tom, or as we all mentioned before, right? So the first time you experience this incredible transparency, you're wowed. And then from the next time on, as Ken pointed out in the chat, you set some expectations. And but getting reviews like this, I mean that's what that is what this is all about, right? Very informative, making the repair decision much easier because you know all the facts, right? Another way of illustrating how important transparency is.
Know all
So
the facts, right? You
know all the
couldn't
facts.
ask for a better, you know, perception from
Right.
your customer than them saying the things that you send me are facts, right?
Right.
And if I say no, I'm denying facts.
Yeah. And I think what's important is now, I know that, you know, some shops won't abide by, or they cannot engage with the DVI. They just don't see it as part of their business model,
Sure.
because they say that it'll slow you down. And I think we should be honest and say that until you hone your processes, it might be a little bit of delay. However, when you get your first one done, and I thought I saw somebody in the comments, the first one is the wow factor, and the other one, the next one, is an expectation, and that's for the client side. From the shop side, if you've done a thorough DVI on the first event, you know, first time with the client, taking your time, and done a really good review and inspection and have all your notes, well, the next time you see that, it's easier. It's an easier inspection, because then it's just, you know, something that could either be, you know, a second time event, which is, it's not as heavy. You can address things. So that time in discovery on the second event is reduced, because now you know what's going on. You have a background, and then your ticket sizes can still maintain a healthy level. Like I said, there's some guys just won't work it that way, and you know, I'm a believer that you should definitely get involved with the DVI situation.
Yeah.
And retention starts with your customers right from that first inspection, especially when we're telling them we're going to be using this to show you things that wear over time and helping you predict in case you like the budget. Now we're actually using that inspection sheet as a retention tool right from the first time we ever seen that customer.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, that's part of the history of things. And when you do a great DVI on the first event and let them know, they have it in front of them. You can easily draw it up. They can draw it up and say, okay, well, yeah, Bill, like you said, let's budget towards that. Send them a reminder, a rec service, and boom, you got them in the basket.
Yeah, and that's that. I mean, that you couldn't be more prescient, right? Is that when you set those expectations and then they become expectations. And so back to Frank's, review here, or the folks, gave this review, is that as long as you deliver that insight, that information, well, I'm going to deliver what you expect from me. And that's my decisions, right? Or my plan. And yeah, you might catch it all today, but I bet you, you can exit schedule them and you'll catch the rest of it in some follow-up appointments, right? And it's just having that alignment with what are our goals and what are we trying to get accomplished and what needs to be done, and it's facts, right? And then after that, it's just plans. It becomes pretty simple.
And so when we do this properly, what we've done is on the customer end is we've moved any pressure from them. It's not a pressure sale anymore. They're educating themselves and them calling and being ready to go ahead and engage based on it. We're not going ahead and calling them and interrupting their life when they're working with their kids or right now they could be trying to teach them their homework because they don't go to school anymore right now. We're not interrupting them. And then they're coming to us and there's no pressure whatsoever. That's when it makes for really good conversations.
Yeah. Then what happens in week 6, Bill?
Week 6, like I said, that's when they start managing, just using numbers. If they've done everything properly at that point, basically they're going to be using the business control panel to identify maybe 1 or 2 things to work on. They're going to document what everybody's going to do as a team, and they're going to put a due date on it. And then they're going to exceed expectations and keep knocking it out. And if they fail, they're going to go back and, find out using the business control panel where that hole is without having to watch behind anybody. Just look at the number and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Our number of recommendations down, it's normally, 6 per inspection on average. Now this week we're at 2. Something's wrong here. We're using the same inspection sheet. Did somebody get a black eye and they can't see out of the other one? What's going on? And then fix it and move on. And we don't wait till we get a P&L at the end of the month or the end of the second month when our accountant finally gets it done. We're actually making good decisions on a daily or weekly basis.
Correct. Yep. Highly adaptive, right?
Things. Wait a minute. I missed something here. When I complete week 6, Bill, you promised a free year of service of Auto Vitals. Is that still true?
I think you'd have to go ahead and address somebody over my particular pay grade, but
I thought that
certainly welcome to ask.
I thought that was your incentive to me to get everything completed. A free.
You know what? If you follow the process and you do it in 6 weeks,
okay,
you'll be able to more than enough pay for your thing because of the processes you put in place. So it won't be a problem.
That's what I was waiting for.
And you misheard what he said is it's a free year for you to serve us.
That was
Awesome.
okay. Yeah. I hooked myself back into that one, didn't I?
Well, we're going to invite you back whether you do good or bad.
I think
No escape.
I think what's going to happen is that Greg is going to reach out and wants to pay more money so Bill stays as his teacher.
He's only got me for a certain period of time till he graduates, so that's how it works.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that could happen in week 6. Once you hit your metrics and you graduate,
Yep.
It should say week 6 plus, right? Because you never really are done. There's always something that you should be testing, analyzing, improving. Set that bar incrementally higher, right? That's how you make it to the Super Bowl. You don't just win the season games, right? You got to really be training and preparing for that championship round, and that's incremental. That's 1 second faster. Half a second faster is how you get there.
So I actually prefer to teach the shop owner to become an evil referee like I am. Every time they break the goal line, I want them to move the goalpost until they can't run any farther or faster. So
make it harder. Yes.
Be that evil referee. Move that goalpost.
Yes. That's fantastic.
I'm now officially afraid.
He should have been from day one.
Yes.
We can't thank you enough for coming on.
Listen, I asked for it. I asked for it.
Yeah, you did.
So, you know, so
Yes, you
I know
volunteered. Just
what I
remember
need.
that.
I know what I need.
Just remember that. We're actually getting some shirts printed out for Bill. It says, just remember you volunteered for this, and he's going to send them out to all of his shops. But at the end of the day, you know, and at the end of the 6 weeks, and you know, it's all about how we improve your service to your customer, the value that your customer takes away, the safety that the customer takes away, and, you know, really giving back to your team and the folks that support you and your business and your community, so that, you know, you can continue to do that and provide that service regardless of the situation. Doesn't matter, you know, natural disasters, man-made disasters, shutdowns, whatever you want to call it. We're prepared because we've got a loyal group of customers and we serve their needs. And hey, that's the name of the game. Why would they go anywhere else? Greg, I can't thank you enough for coming on with us, buddy. This was fantastic. I know it's helped a lot of folks.
Hey, well, thank you. It's helped me. I really do appreciate it. You know, I'm really enjoying the time with AV on this one here, on this round. A lot of great tools, a lot of great features, something that I sorely needed as a shop owner to actually take a next step. And I know that my team needs it as well. And again, this is something that I'm using to build the third generation in order for it to take over. So in all seriousness, it's kudos to you guys for making a platform that really is quite in depth for what we need as shop owners. And I look forward to the future being, you know, more adaptable, more open. I don't think Uwe's done masterminding some more options for this thing, as long as he can squeeze down everything into those tiles. But I think, you know, again, it goes back to what we want to look at for the future, and what will be expected as professionals to be actually, you know, our expectations as professionals, and what tasks ahead, and who we're going to be working with and stuff like that. So long range, it's all good. So, and Bill, I do appreciate, I don't know how many other people you coach here that are on the webinar, but in all seriousness, Bill is a great coach. He is so knowledgeable, and it really does help me. We can joke around like we did, but in all seriousness, man, dude, you're a rock star. So I thank you.
Well, and I appreciate people like you that keep me on my toes, because the sharp ones are the ones that are more fun to work with, because they challenge me all the time. And you have definitely been a challenge.
I don't, you know, see, is that the backhand you're telling me, or is that fronthand? What is that? Is that a backhand compliment?
It's a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. All right. Thanks.
That's a two thumbs up.
That's a 2 thumbs up. Okay. All right, guys. It's great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
tune
Greg.
in, next week, same time, same place. We're going to be doing you know, kind of episode 7 of our 10-part series, episode 72 if you're counting. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure that you register, right? Get over there to autovitals.com/DSTR and get registered. That way you get the notifications and we automatically send you the recording. So if you can't make it in to, you know, experience the brilliance that was this episode with Greg, we'll send it straight to your inbox and you can watch it on your own time, you know, but you still learn, you still get the information. So get registered, and then we'll see you next Wednesday.